I've been seeing people recently extolling the virtues of Flock of Doom. Rider Rohan certainly is one of those, and today he's going to take the Wood Elves, Durthu, into the Beastmen and see what he can do. Durthu is, of course, the only caster here, and he's just got Flock of Doom, so he's just going to be looking to output as much anti-infantry damage as possible with this. Of course, you can hit multiple units in a blob. While Beastmen don't really have a lot of high-value infantry, they just have a lot of infantry, especially in this build against the Wood Elves here. So let's take a look at what else they've both got. We've got front line of Dryads here, backed up by some Azurai Spears. We've got a couple of Glade Guards as well. Regular Glade Guards, I believe. Yeah, no Hagbane tips. 2 Great Stag Knights. And then some Glade Riders of Spears over on this side. As for the Beastmen, going to be led by Morgur. Excuse me, got a huge line of Ungor herds, along with Ungor Spearman herds and Ungor Archers, backed up by Centaurs, 2 Minotaurs with great weapons, and a Bray Shaman of Wild for that sweet Traderkin, of course, which is going to be quite effective against the Wood Elf Cavalry here. So let's kind of see how it goes. Personally, Stag Knights feel a little bit weird in this matchup. Like, I think they can be good, but I'm not sure. I would probably take other mobility units. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but we do have some Goreherd shields up here in the front. That nice Beastman color scheme. Going to take a charge from the Dryads here. Not necessarily get a counter charge, which is super important for Beastmen. They generally have very high charge, 24 on these Goreherds. They're missing out on there, so that is fairly significant. Allows the Dryads to get in here and trade pretty well initially. Although we've got a big mobility flight developing on the other side. A few Stag Knights here in the near ground get a nice charge of those Ungor herds, then get countercharged by the Minotaurs. The War Dancers are going to try and help out on this engagement, but they're not able to fully contact the Centaurs. That said, the Centaurs are going to charge in and outtrade the Glade Riders fairly effectively. You see that big Flock of Doom going off in the back line there. As more Centaurs and Minotaurs charge in, we're going to see the Stag Knights and more Glade Riders sort of escalate this engagement, but a really nice Traderkin hits a bunch of different units here and is going to reap some very nice value. Morgur already pulling up some of his Chaos Spawn summons here in the center, and them already getting beat down in a big hurry. Of course, Durthu is a very strong combatant in and of himself. Doesn't have any healing here in this build, which may potentially be a problem, but he's just going to dedicate all his magic to damage, which there's definitely something to that. Durthu already getting about 500 points of damage. Not too many kills yet, but certainly is going to be feasting on some value there from Morgur himself. This mobility engagement, though, is starting to kind of turn against the Wood Elves a little bit, although they were able to take out a lot of those Minotaurs with great weapons. The mass of Centaurs here is going to be very tough to deal with, and the Stag Knights eventually just getting severely outnumbered, even with those War Dancers nearby. We'll see kind of how that engagement plays out, but the Glade Riders definitely all got creamed there. And slowly over time, the Dryads are starting to get kind of out-traded in many instances. They're doing okay, but a little bit overextended here against just this mass of now returning Ungors from that initial engagement. Can come in and get a nice surround. They're getting shot in the back here. These Minotaurs also, a little micro-mistake, leaves them out in open space against those Glade Guards, but the mobility fight going so poorly for Rider Rohan over on this flank here, as this unit of Stag Knights now gets pretty much finished off. It's going to open up a lot of avenues for the Centaurs to try and get through and get on these Archers, get some rear charges on these Dryads. Durthu, though, is pretty much completely untouched. Of course, he does still have some threats here. Definitely the Ungor Raiders en masse just shooting him can be pretty dangerous. There are also some Minotaurs here, although it look like they're going to be rear charged quite nicely if those Archers can hold out momentarily. Get these Stag Knights in here. Oh yeah, they're going to get a nice charge into the back of those Minotaurs there. Should be able to finish the unit off fully. Yep. But the other Hagbane tips getting eaten up by Centaurs, and the War Dancers are doing their best to chase. They're probably getting quite a bit of value here. But the ones on the other side end up kind of getting eaten up by like a bunch of Ungor herds and stuff, and I get some decent kill numbers, but right now, in terms of value trading and kind of tactically, they're not where they need to be, right? They need to be fighting some of these mobile large units, but it is what it is for the time being. The Centaurs are taking full advantage of their mobility to get some nice rear charges and shut down some different pockets. Still got these War Dancers online as well, so if the War Dancers can get to Durthu and help him fight off a lot of this cavalry and such, they'll be in a pretty good position, although these Ungor Raiders are going to be more and more dangerous as the game plays out. They have still a lot of models left, and even though their DPS per model is pretty low, that high volume of fire, of course, will start to tell over time. Another nice Flock of Doom. We're going to see a Traderkin in response. This will also do some fairly solid damage to Durthu. You can see him there ticking down below 75% HP. More Centaurs landing on another Glade Guard here as the War Dancers desperately try and defend. They are starting to shatter some units. Those Minotaurs taking a huge amount of damage, not likely to come back. We do have some more Chaos Spawn, though, being summoned. I believe that's the one that comes from like a unit just exploding. So potentially a unit that could have came back from route there, but instead they turn into spawns, and now Morgur is going to try and fight Durthu a little bit in melee, just kind of keep him fixed in place while these archers get some work done. We're going to see another Flock of Doom hitting a whole bunch of infantry units here. Check in on Durthu's value. He's up to 150 kills plus, almost 3,000 value, so definitely getting some very good damage in. Let's see, right now things are looking pretty grim for the Wood Elves, as it is pretty much just Durthu left. We do have a few of these War Dancers over on the far side here as well. But yeah, Durthu's definitely looking a little bit lonely at this point. Spawn Summon does run out, though, which is going to give him a little bit more kind of time and space to work with. The Ungor Raiders, though, I mean, there's still 65 models here, 72 models here, and again, their armor piercing is only 1 per shot, but with that many unit models firing in, that minimum 1 armor piercing damage is going to just bypass physical resistance because it's such a low amount of damage, so kind of the way the interaction works there. A little bit interesting. Durthu maybe doesn't get the benefit. I mean, obviously all that non-AP damage is subject to his armor, right? And then you get the physical plus missile resistance up to 35%. But yeah, minimum of 1 damage always gets through. And since they only have 1 AP anyway, might not seem like a lot, but in time, with a lot of unit models, we see another Traderkin there cast as well. So Durthu's still holding out as best he can, but he's definitely teetering on the edge of army losses right now. If he could get a big terror route going, could turn things around, but just the lack of mobility here, the lost mobility, I should say, really kind of played against right over Rohan here. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of Stag Knights versus other mobile units potentially here. Another Flock of Doom going to go off. Does give Durthu some way to lash out and try and attack these Ungor Raiders as they try and take him down. Let's pull the health bars back up and assess the situation. It's looking pretty grim for Durthu. He did just about finish off these 2 Ungor Raiders with those flocks, but yeah, right over Rohan also probably wishing he had prioritized the flocks specifically on the Raiders maybe a little bit more over the course of the battle. It is still quite close, even though the balance of power is heavily against Durthu here. He's just going to slay a couple of Minotaurs outright there. And if he had a little bit more leadership, he could have probably carried that end game, but Beastmen are just going to squeak out a win there at the end. And Durthu did his part. I mean, 32,000 damage dealt, 3,000 gold value. It's pretty impressive. Some other aspects of the build felt a little bit short. Dryads, that initial engagement was quite good, and tactically, I mean, they basically did their part, right? War Dancers, the one that ended up fighting Ungors, was pretty inefficient, where you can see the other one that was tangled up with large units primarily more than paid for itself. So I think just switching this one War Dancer over to the opposite side when you see that cavalry engagement developing could be important. Just, you know, even if they're late to the party, getting them over there sooner than they were initially would have been helpful. Stag Knights also, their low model count and they're relatively expensive. Both those factors means they're likely to get outnumbered in this matchup pretty heavily, which is a situation they're going to struggle in generally, especially because, like, Centaurs are not pushovers. They're some of the best light cavalry in the game for the cost, especially, and very effective at winning those mobility engagements. Not to mention you've got the heavy Minotaurs in here as well, so lots of Ungor Spears, also very cheap, good support. And then, of course, Traderkin also is a spell that's going to be very, very good against low model count cavalry like these guys. So I would probably switch this composition up, and I might actually consider taking a dragon here. You know, cut these 2 Stag Knights, and a dragon is not that much more than a Stag Knight. I believe, let's just double check here, but I want to say it's like 1,800 versus 1,500. Only 1,600 actually, so it's only 100 more points to go from a Stag Knight up to Forest Dragon. So you could, and you know, without healing, it's going to be a little bit risky, but at least the Forest Dragon gives you some breath attacks to work with to try and take out some Ungor Raiders. Also has flying mobility, which means if you can screen it effectively, it's going to, you know, get some good engagements potentially. Also has terror, obviously, which is just very good against the Beastmen, especially on a mobile unit. So, yeah, I would think maybe you even trade... I mean, according to tournament rule sets, I don't know if you could actually take... I guess Forest Dragons are not that expensive. I think you could take double Forest Dragon plus Durthu, which, again, a lot of single entity spend without any healing. At that point, you might want to option in, you know, just a Spell Singer only with, like, you know, just Earthblood, so that you can kind of heal all 4 of them as they form into a blob. Doesn't cost that much extra. You know, you definitely would have the extra points there. And, I mean, I guess, yeah, if you're cutting both the Stag Knights, you'd have to find a little bit of extra points somewhere. But you could definitely cut both Stag Knights and just take 1 Forest Dragon, take the Spell Singer, and then that still leaves you, you know, 1,000 extra points to come in here and grab, like, a couple of extra Eternal Guards for supporting against mobility, or, you know, whatever else you would prefer to take. But I don't know, I think the Forest Dragon's pretty underrated, and I would definitely take it over Stag Knights in this matchup. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again, we'll see you next time.